To start with, gather all the necessary materials. Now, the beauty of terrarium making is that it doesn't demand a lot from your pocket or your time. It's about creating a miniature world that you can tuck away in a corner of your room or to gift a friend. So, let's dive right in. First up, you'll need a clear glass container. This could be anything from an old mason jar to a fishbowl or a specially designed terrarium case. The key is that it needs to be clear to allow sunlight to reach your plants, and it should be large enough to house your miniature garden. Next, you'll need small plants. These could be mosses, ferns, succulents, or miniature orchids. The choice is yours, but remember they need to thrive in a high humidity environment, so choose your plants wisely. Then comes the soil. A well-draining soil mix is best for terrariums. You can make your own by mixing 2 parts peat moss, 1 part sterilized garden soil, and 1 part perlite or sand. This will ensure your plants have a healthy, well-draining environment to grow in. Pebbles or small stones are next on the list. These will help with drainage and prevent your terrarium from becoming a swamp. You'll also need activated charcoal, which you can find at any pet store. This will keep the water clean and free from bacteria and fungi that could harm your plants. Finally, you'll need decorations. Here's where you can let your creativity shine. Think miniature figurines, shells, colorful stones, or even a tiny fairy house. The sky's the limit, and you're the designer of your own miniature world. And of course, you'll need some basic gardening tools like a small shovel, a pair of tweezers for placing your plants, and a spray bottle for watering. With all these materials at hand, you're all set for the fun part. Now it's time to assemble your terrarium. First and foremost, we start with a layer of pebbles. This isn't just for show, it's an essential part of the terrarium's drainage system. This layer will prevent water from pooling at the bottom of your terrarium, which could cause the roots of your plants to rot. About 1 inch of pebbles should be enough to keep things healthy and well drained. Next, we're going to add a layer of activated charcoal. This might seem like an odd addition, but it's actually crucial for keeping your terrarium fresh. The activated charcoal works to absorb odors and control bacterial growth in the water that will inevitably collect at the bottom of your terrarium. A light covering over your pebbles will do the job just fine. Now it's time for the soil. This is where your plants will set their roots and draw their nutrients. You'll want to add enough soil so that your plants can root comfortably. As a rough guide, aim for a layer that's about 2 to 3 times as deep as your plant's roots. And remember, it's always easier to add more soil later if you need to. Finally, we come to the most exciting part: the plants. When choosing your plants, consider their size, their growth rate, and their sunlight and water needs. Try to choose plants that have similar needs so they can thrive together in your terrarium. Once you've made your selection, carefully place them in the soil. You can arrange them however you like, but remember to leave some space between them for growth. It's also a good idea to place taller plants towards the back and smaller ones at the front, so they all get their share of sunlight. Feel free to add any decorative items like stones, shells, or small figurines to personalize your terrarium. Remember, the arrangement of your plants is crucial for the overall aesthetics of your terrarium. You've now set up your own little ecosystem, a slice of nature you can enjoy right in your own home or office. Happy planting! Creating your terrarium is only half the journey. Taking care of it is equally important. Firstly, let's talk about light. The plants in your terrarium need bright, indirect light. Placing your terrarium in direct sunlight might seem like a good idea, but it can easily overheat and burn the plants. Think of it as a miniature greenhouse. It's best to place your terrarium near a window that gets plenty of natural light, but is shielded from the sun's direct rays. Watering your terrarium is a delicate balance. You want to provide enough moisture to sustain the plants, but not so much that it becomes a swamp. Overwatering is a common mistake. The best approach is to water sparingly. A light misting once a week is often enough. If you see condensation on the glass, that's a good sign your terrarium has enough moisture. If the plants begin to wilt or turn brown, they might need a bit more water. Be patient and adjust as necessary. Temperature is another factor to consider. Most terrarium plants prefer a temperature between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Avoid placing your terrarium near heaters or air conditioners, as this can cause drastic temperature changes. Trim any overgrown plants to keep your terrarium looking tidy. If a plant dies, remove it promptly to prevent any potential disease from spreading. What works for one might not work for another. The key is to observe your terrarium closely, learn from it, and adjust your care routine accordingly. While terrariums are fairly low maintenance, they can sometimes run into problems. One of the most common issues is mold. It's a common sight in terrariums because of their humid environments, which are perfect breeding grounds for fungus. If you spot a fuzzy, white growth in your terrarium, that's mold. To combat mold, first remove the infected plants and clean the affected areas. Then let your terrarium air out for a few hours each day to reduce humidity. Using charcoal in your soil mix can also help prevent mold as it has antifungal properties. Overwatering is another frequent problem. It's easy to overdo it with the watering can, but remember, terrariums are like miniature rainforests. They recycle their own water. If you see droplets forming on the glass too often or plant leaves turning yellow, you might be overwatering. To rectify this, cut back on watering and ensure your terrarium has good drainage. A layer of pebbles at the bottom can help with that. Pests can also become unwelcome guests in your terrarium. If you see tiny bugs, it's time to take action. You can introduce beneficial insects like ladybugs, which are natural predators of many pest species, or for a non-insect option, try a natural pesticide like neem oil. Prevention, of course, is the best cure for all these issues. Start by choosing healthy, pest-free plants. Use sterilized soil and tools to prevent introducing mold spores and pests, and remember to water sparingly. A terrarium is a living ecosystem, and like any ecosystem, it can experience its share of problems, but don't let these challenges discourage you. They're opportunities to learn and grow as a terrarium caretaker. With patience and a bit of knowledge, you can keep your miniature garden thriving for years to come. If you enjoyed the content, please show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support would mean a lot to this channel.